Hey everyone, big news in the world of law school admissions. The American Bar Association has officially eliminated the LSAT requirement for schools that apply for and receive a special variance. Sounds like a game changer, right? The LSAT, a test that's been central to law school admissions for decades, might no longer be required. But here's the thing. Despite the headlines, this change doesn't matter as much as you might think. For most law school applicants, the LSAT still remains your most critical tool, not just for getting into law school, but for earning scholarship money, standing out from the competition, and proving you're ready for the challenges ahead. Today, I'll explain exactly what the ABA's decision means, why most schools aren't dropping the LSAT anytime soon, and how you can still use the LSAT to your advantage. And if you're wondering how to tackle the LSAT effectively, I'll share how I can help you achieve your dream score along the way. First, for those who don't know me, my name is Steve Schwartz. I've been teaching the LSAT since 2005, and I personally increased my own LSAT score from a 152 to a 175. Now let's talk about what the ABA actually decided to clear up some confusion about the decision. The ABA voted to allow law schools to apply for a variance, which means they can request permission to admit students without requiring the LSAT or any standardized test at all. But a couple of key details. First, this is not automatic. Schools must apply for this variance and meet specific conditions to gain approval. Secondly, it's temporary. The variance lasts for only 3 to 5 years, after which law schools must reapply for it. And finally, it's just experimental. This is a trial run to evaluate how dropping standardized testing affects outcomes like 1L grades, bar passage rates, and career readiness. The ABA's stated goal here is to increase accessibility and diversity in the legal profession, and while that's a great goal, it does come with risks. Critics argue that removing the LSAT could lead to inconsistent admission standards and greater reliance on subjective factors like GPAs and personal statements, which are not as reliable as standardized tests. Now, here's why most schools won't drop the LSAT even with the variance option. Here's why. The first and biggest reason is rankings and prestige. The U.S. News rankings heavily factor in LSAT medians. Schools that want to maintain or improve their rankings won't risk losing high-scoring applicants by going test optional. The second thing to consider is bar passage rates. The LSAT is shown to correlate with bar exam success. Schools use the LSAT to make sure their incoming students are academically prepared and likely to pass the bar. Because if too many students fail the bar exam, a law school will risk losing its ABA accreditation, which is a nightmare scenario for everyone involved. Also, law schools are slow to adopt big changes. Most of them will likely observe how the variance affects other schools before they themselves jump on board. Now, of course, the LSAT isn't just about the rankings. It's also a strong predictor of success in law school. Schools know this, which is why they've relied on it for decades. Now, before we dive deeper into how this change might affect you, let me ask you, are you ready to maximize your LSAT potential? Because the truth is, whether you're aiming for a top LSAT score to get into your dream school, or you're just trying to improve enough to secure scholarships, the LSAT is still your best bet. And that's where I can help. My team and I specialize in helping students achieve their highest possible scores, ideally 170 plus, using proven strategies and personalized support through our live online classes via Zoom, on-demand video courses, small group coaching, and one-on-one coaching. We've helped students improve their scores by 10, 20, or even 30 points or more, which totally transforms their law school prospects and opens the door to significant scholarship money. And so if you're ready to take control of your future, get the best possible admissions outcomes, you could check out the links below to find out more and to book a call with me and my team. We'd be glad to help you out. Now let's get back to why the LSAT is still critical for your success. Because even in a world where some law schools are going to go test optional, the LSAT is crucial for most applicants. The first and biggest reason is scholarships. Your merit-based scholarship offers are tied directly to your LSAT score. Schools want high-scoring students to boost their stats, and they're willing to reward those scores with significant tuition discounts. Without an LSAT score on record, you're missing out on major financial aid opportunities. The LSAT also levels the playing field. Whether you majored in STEM, liberal arts, or business, the LSAT gives admissions committees a standardized way to evaluate your academic potential. And if your GPA isn't as strong as you would have liked, the LSAT gives you a chance to shine. A high LSAT score can offset weaknesses like a low GPA or other parts of your application and show law schools you're ready for the rigors of law school itself. And even at test optional schools, the LSAT medians will still play a role in the U.S. News rankings, and schools want high scoring applicants to maintain their prestige. Now, with all the buzz about test optional law school admissions, let's address some common myths. The first and biggest myth is that I don't need the LSAT for scholarships. Totally wrong. Most merit-based scholarships are still directly tied to your LSAT score. The second big myth is that a high GPA is enough. A strong GPA will certainly help, but it's not a substitute for a top LSAT score. Grade inflation has led to significant rises in GPA medians, and differences across schools make GPAs harder to compare, which is why schools weigh LSAT scores more heavily than GPA. Now, the third big myth is that if a school is test optional, the LSAT won't matter. Totally wrong. Even at test optional schools, submitting a competitive LSAT score can give you a significant advantage. And remember, not all law schools will embrace the variance. Top schools are especially unlikely to because they rely on LSAT scores to maintain their rankings and prestige. Mid-ranked schools are probably the most likely because they have room to experiment to attract a more diverse applicant pool. The lowest ranked schools are unlikely to. It'd be too risky for them because they rely on LSAT scores to predict bar passage rates and maintain their accreditation. So here are some key takeaways you've got to remember. First, the ABA's variance policy is experimental and optional. It's not a universal elimination of the LSAT. Most schools will still value LSAT scores heavily, especially for scholarships and increasing their status in the U.S. News rankings. And so the LSAT remains your best tool for standing out, rewriting your narrative, and securing financial aid. So while the ABA might have eliminated the LSAT requirement for some schools, it still matters for you probably more than ever. Don't let the headlines distract you from what really moves the needle in law school admissions. And of course, if you're ready to crush the LSAT, my team and I are need to help. Whether you need live classes, on-demand video courses, or personalized coaching, we've got a solution that fits your goals. You can check out the links below to find out more and to book a call with me and my team. And in the meantime, I'll wish you all the best and take care.